there's been an awful lot of focus on little announcements, sort of generally just being more positive and upbeat, breathing space is the repeated phrase. And we are going to get to the difficult bits.
Andy Burnham's 2-week tour of the country is ending with him back in his happy place, number 10 of the North in Manchester. He's chairing a meeting of ministers to discuss plans to generate economic growth, and we could do it some, as you know, figures out this morning showing government borrowing. That's the gap between what the state spends and what it gets in tax receipts was up at £1.8 billion in July. So Jack, a month into Burnham's premiership, his great plans to get the economy growing come from above a slug and lettuce in Manchester, as you well know. What do you think of the project so far? Are we dealing with realpolitik or gimmicky politics?
I was speaking to someone the other day and sort of we're a month in and we still don't know what he's about. I think one of the big questions with Burnham is the sort of the received wisdom on sort of polling bumps and so on is that you get a 3-month window as a new PM where there is a grace period, honeymoon period, depending on how well it goes. And with Burnham, there is the possibility that there may be a sort of a phony war at the start of that.
Yeah.
He became Prime Minister on pretty much the first day after recess. Everyone's been on holiday. There hasn't been much opportunity to do anything. So, you know, he can get properly stuck in September. Having said that, there's been an awful lot of focus on little announcements, sort of generally just being more positive and upbeat, breathing space is the repeated phrase. And we are going to get to the difficult bits in October. So you mentioned the budget coming up. The difficult questions cannot be avoided for very much longer.
Did you manage to read Patrick Maguire's piece today? It's a really good...
I haven't had it yet.
Okay, suffice to say, he talks about the hope, the language of hope that we've been hearing. And in fairness to Patrick, who could, if he wanted to go quite cynical about it, he doesn't. He kind of gives it a chance. He gives the Prime Minister some breathing space to settle down. But David Blunkett was saying that he felt, according to this piece, that Burnham was closer to Clinton in terms of style and that sense of folksy charm and hope. But with, as you just said, he points out with the budget coming down the track in a 10-year plan, so reality will bite soon. Do you think that moment, that the honeymoon period, is still alive and well for Andy Burnham?
I mean, I think the budget date in late October is the absolute firm end of that. If the honeymoon is still going then,
yes,
as any couple knows, as soon as you start talking about money,
you know it's trouble.
That's the end of the romance for a little bit. I think it's very important to say there is nothing wrong with being able to strike a positive, upbeat tone, and that is definitely one of Keir Starmer's shortcomings. The comparison with Clinton is, I think, quite apt. Clinton was very much able to seize the post-Cold War optimism and the sort of the millennial optimism as we reach the end of the 20th century. And Burnham being a ray of sunshine is no bad thing. Yeah. Whether or not he can maintain that through... And I think the burning question is actually, I think the public are... yearning for somebody who has a serious answer. As ever, the electorate will say that before a serious answer is given and they will grumble during it. But if they can believe in the end point, that is what is the key. The difficulty Andy Burnham has is he has 3 years, not 5.
Yes.
And it is a hell of a gamble from Labour that anything major will be paying off by 2029. And hence talk of an early election. But, you know, polls are not... There has been a Burnham bump, but it's not one you would bet the house on.
Tell me about number 10 North. We're reading that Politico reporting that it has a replica number 10 door, a cardboard Larry the Cat, so you might as well, and a gold Smith's record on the wall. No shock there. It's all very on brand so far. You know, is there a danger that the whole thing looks more like a set, like House of Cards or something, rather than an actual government department? Are you buying it?
I was thinking the cardboard Larry the Cat is more likely to be eaten by the mice than the other way around. So that's an interesting. I think the main issue in number 10 North, there is nothing in and of itself wrong, other than, you know, you can grumble about the extra expense of transporting people there, etc. But there is nothing wrong with this idea. It could work perfectly well. Is it actually going to be doing anything different than what would be being done in London. It's got to be performing a different function. So the fact that it's now going to be focused on economic growth is probably a sensible strategic
It gives
move.
it purpose.
It gives it purpose,
Yeah.
but it's also changing the view of how economic growth might be achieved by giving it a regional focus. However, there was an interesting bit in this magazine piece by Politico this morning, which compared Number 10 North with Treasury Darlington, which was the Conservative version of this, sort of 350 odd civil servants in Darlington. It was noted that this was conveniently close to the then Chancellor Rishi Sunak's constituency, and of course this is conveniently close to the Prime Minister's house. Yeah. If this is going to become the way that we actually have to do things, we need to make sure that we're picking these places strategically for the country. And I do slightly worry that this is going to become something of a tennis ball. Reform will have very limited interest in maintaining this if they get in. The Conservatives may maintain something like it, but I doubt that they're going to want to do it necessarily in Manchester. I want to see some demonstration of national strategic thinking now from Burnham, rather than, I've come from Manchester, it's quite convenient for me. Manchester is a great city. There are reasons why you'd have it in Manchester, but I want to see the strategic reasons why.
The reasons for it. I'd love to hear from some of our listeners in Manchester to see, are they buying it? Do they like it? Are they into it? Or do they think it's a bit of a wheeze? Well, let's move on. New government figures show that French police intercepted 185 small boats in the 3 months after the UK paid £660 million in a border agreement with France. The Tories, however, described the announcement as a joke. Here's the Shadow Policing Minister Matt Vickers speaking to Rosie Wright and Callum MacDonald on Times Radio Breakfast.
We've given the French nearly £500 million. The number of interventions they've made has halved this year when put against last year. That is not acceptable. A record number arrived under Starmer, more than any previous Prime Minister. This Prime Minister's been in place a month. We've had 3,500 people arrive illegally in those dinghies, and only 7% of them have been sent back.
That was Shadow Policing Minister Matt Vickers speaking to Times Radio Breakfast, and you can join them every day from 6 a.m. But let's speak now to Rob Lowry, who's an ex-soldier and aid worker who hosts the To Catch a Scorpion podcast, which is all about people smuggling. Rob, welcome to the programme. Nice to talk to you.
And to yourself.
So tell me, as you see it, have the French police succeeded in moving things in the right direction and stepped up their efforts?
Well, it's obvious that things are going in the right direction. The statement released by the Home Office yesterday, I think, or last night, I can only put down as rather misleading, really. One of the successes that the UK or the National Crime Agency have had is working alongside Germany over the spring and early summer, and they've managed to seize many boats out of the Westphalian area, probably through intelligence led between the two countries, along with outboard motors. So they have been successful in diminishing the supply. However, what we've still got a massive demand of people wanting to come to Europe in the first instance from Iraq, from Iran, from all over the African nations. So the demand is still there. And there's one thing I know about people smuggling networks. They are very, very good at adapting in real time. Now, there has been French law enforcement have been stopping boats on the beach. But they've been stopping, I've noticed over the last 3 or 4 months, they've been stopping really small boats, 6 metre, 8 metre, which has allowed the really big boats, sometimes up to 18 metres. We saw one the other week with 230 people on board to get through. And the human trafficking networks are now developing different tactics. So a lot of boats, quite a few boats, are starting to build up over the border in Belgium to launch from those sites up to Japan, around the Japan area, and even I've known boats to launch from the Zeebrugge area, which is madness when you think about the distances got to cover. The human trafficking networks have also adapted this thing called a taxi boat system, whereby they can launch a boat out to sea with just a few people on board, maybe 10 or 15, and literally pick migrants up along the beach before they head west to the UK. So the cooperation between the UK and France is getting better. The cooperation between UK and Germany is the real key to this.
Yeah. Rob, there's two things I really want to ask you. One is the smuggling networks you talk about seem to be, you kind of alluded to it, they're very agile. They're very nimble when it comes to the law. They seem to be able to shift and pivot with considerable ease. Why are they so slippery? Why can't the authorities get their hands on them?
Well, it's like the drugs market, isn't it? The global circulation of drugs have been going on for an eternity now. The war on drugs hasn't really worked because drugs still circulate. Human trafficking networks work on that basis. They are I think one of the main things, the perception is held by the public, that they are just small gangs. They're not. And I've alluded to this many, many times. These human trafficking networks, a lot of which the higher echelons are controlled from Iraq and Iran. And also the UK. A lot of this is controlled from the UK, don't forget. Unless you're taking out the top echelons of these human trafficking networks, you're not really going. You can disrupt it here and there and have some success and have some arrests, but you're taking out lower T or middle management smugglers, which can be replaced almost immediately.
Yeah.
So I mean that's one of the biggest problems facing law enforcement. But I've always said the only way to combat this is to have a centralised European and UK force that concentrates solely on human trafficking networks, because before that happens, all you're going to have before that happens is just this piecemeal odd arrest here and seizure of boat there. I mean, it's going in the right direction, but make no mistake, human trafficking networks can flip on a dime and change their methodology.
I've just time for a very short question, or at least a shorter answer. Anytime I see footage, it seems to show men, and then they use that language, men of military age, all this kind of thing that's kind of trying to scare people. But you've seen women and children and so on. Are they coming in too? I know that people might remember you avoided a prison sentence for trying to smuggle in a young Afghan girl into the UK. But is it? Are we oversimplifying it? Is it not all men coming in hardly?
Well, I was in Greece this year at Moria camp. I've been to Lesbos camp. I've been all around Europe. I was in France literally 10 days ago.
Yeah.
I don't publish my photographs on any social media platform, but if anyone wants to see them, they're makeshift schools full of kids set up in these camps that are being entertained. There are lots and lots of women. I can't help but the media focus on what they call fighting age men. I don't know what they're fighting for, but I can guarantee I've worked on this for over a decade. I can show anybody my photographs, my videos, if they want to see them. There are thousands of children and thousands of women.
Okay.
So it's just a media angle, I think.
Yeah, really interesting. I'd love to talk to you about that on another occasion, actually, at length, Rob.
Yeah,
Thanks for your time today. Nice to talk to you. Rob Lowry, ex-soldier, aid worker, hosting the To Catch a Scorpion podcast.